Okay.
And
I
then
know.
John's, Buster's, and then Cora, then Jackie's.
It's nice to meet everybody. I've heard lots about everybody, so most of y'all
Oh,
know.
this is Marcia.
Why was your face in an easy It was all just a test and your feedback.
If you could have seen the strut that he's way out there. Joe, happy to get
One time getting hit in the face with a bat like this.
You're probably saying you're driving in your dad.
Thank you all so much for coming. I know it was not easy for many of you to get here, so thank you. It is comforting to see so many faces here today, so many familiar faces here today. My mother was born in her mother's bedroom here in Casey, Illinois, on September 15th, 1954, and died in her own bedroom in Clearwater, Florida, in the early morning hours of July 1st, 2021. It has been 12 days since my mother passed away. Ordinarily, one would have had the funeral by now, but there was no hurrying my mother in anything. She did what she did at her own pace, and so it has gone with the funeral arrangements. It makes me think that whoever made it the term, being late to your own funeral, had my mother in mind. My mother's death was sudden, and she didn't leave any instructions. It was impossible to get her remains out of Florida on the 4th of July weekend, and right after we got the appropriate paperwork for her to be flown out, Tropical Storm Elsa hit Florida, causing further delays. Being the only child, I have taken responsibility for making decisions regarding the arrangements. I am so grateful to Dee, Jessica, Daniel, and Matt from Markwell Funeral Home for their help and support through this process. This first decision I made after making sure we would have a burial here in Casey was to make this service a closed casket. I did this because I just don't think my mother would want to be on display for all to see, but rest assured, she looks beautiful. Typically, a eulogy would consist of hearing about a person's life from an authoritative speaker. While I will share my favorite memories of my mother, I would prefer to hear from others who knew her. So I could learn and not teach, so I could listen and not speak. Memories of her trigger other memories. Her brother Paul today told me a story that reminded me of something I had long forgotten. I never would have remembered this otherwise. That I used to sing the song to Annie for her when I was little. You know, the sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. My mother was not an open book. Questions about her life often went unanswered, which is one reason I felt like it would be good to have others who knew her speak about her. So please feel free to come up and share a story. If not here, then the VFW later tonight. If not at the VFW, call me or add me to Facebook, whatever you feel comfortable with. After everyone speaks, I'll be singing some songs, the final of which I wrote for her myself a few days after she died. My aim was to make the song relevant to her life and her relationship to this town, and I believe I have done that. Mom will be buried next to her father. A thing I know she would have liked. For the graveside service, I have asked my Uncle Ron Goldstein to speak. She loved and respected Ron and his wife Purdy so much. He is the only person I trust to deliver a final prayer for my mother before we lay her to rest. We all know that my mom loved to throw a good party, which is why we are going to continue her service at the VFW when they open today at 4. We'll have an open bar and food. Knowing that my mother's friends would be coming, I was sure to set up a monetary limit on free drinks. Yes, I've heard some stories about you all too. It is tough for me to talk about her life because a huge part of it was dedicated to me. I know I'll never understand her perspective and the sacrifices she made for me. Such a thing would be impossible. She kept me safe and she showed me love. She did all the things a mother should do and more. There is a natural feeling of guilt in these circumstances, and frankly, I feel like I could have done more for her during her life. Family, because it consists of people, is complicated. Let's not pretend otherwise. When I think about my mother, my favorite memories are the times when I was very young, when it was just her and I. Those are the times I cherish the most. I have one vivid memory of a particular time when she dropped me off at the babysitter in Flora. This happened regularly, but this time I put up a fight. I wrapped my arms around her and cried and cried and cried and would not let her go. But she had to go to work, and she couldn't take me with her. The babysitter literally had to pull me off of her. I just didn't want to let my mother go. That is much the same way I feel today. You can see from some of the pictures that she loved to dress me up in clothes of the same pattern she was wearing. A thing which she later came to regret. When we lived in Oblong before we moved to Florida, my cousin Penny lived with us. Some sort of babysitting arrangement was made where I would attend Penny's cheerleading practice and Penny would watch me. I was probably 4 or so. Well, in cheerleading practice, I joined the girls Things to come, I guess. But I would join the girls and learn their dance moves, and it was a great deal of fun for everyone. Well, then came the homecoming basketball game, during which I ran down to join the cheerleaders in their routine, just like during practice, and I caused a huge spectacle. Mom came after me on the basketball court to scoop me up and could not hide the fact that she was my mother because we were wearing matching shirts. She always talked about that. She was so sweet to me. She was so sweet to me. I can remember being about 6, and she picked me up at the babysitter's there in Florida, and she walked in the door with a gray boombox that she bought from Walmart. She bought me a new cassette tape. It was Cinderella. And no, not the Disney Cinderella. She and I were much too cool for that. I am referring to the hair metal band Cinderella, who with their raspy voices sang hits in 85 and 86, like Nobody's Fool and Shake Me. No, those are not the songs I'll be singing today. I'd run around the bar she managed in Florida with that old boom box and tape songs as they were playing on the jukebox and listen to them over and over. Bon Jovi quickly became my favorite, and out of my love for that band, my mom's favorite nickname for me, some of you remember it, Toby Bon Jovi. This all culminated into the Bon Jovi concert that she took me to when I was 6 years old at Roberts Stadium in Evansville. And the opening act was none other than Cinderella. She took a lot of criticism for that from people, but she rightfully ignored them. I think I took a great lesson from that, which I have used to a great advantage in my life. Pursue the passions in which you are interested, and let the naysayers be damned. It was amazing to me, the degree to which she embraced people of color and those of other sexual orientations. Through her example, she taught me to accept others no matter what. It didn't matter where they were from, what color they were, or who they loved. They were just people. And in fact, Mom would probably tell you that all that stuff made them more interesting. That is a testament to her character, and it was a positive example to me. Mom really kept up with politics and current events. Some of our best conversations were about politics, and she knew a lot. She always surprised me with how much she knew about what was going on in the world. She'd call me and ask me how I fared in the tornadoes in Dallas the day before, and I'd have no idea what she was talking about. Damn it, was she stubborn. I think her friend Marcia could attest to this probably better than anyone. When I was a teenager, she used to ask me why I was so stubborn, and I just look at her like, you don't know? Mom was fiercely independent, which seems to me to be a trademark Larkin characteristic, one which has been passed from generation to generation and has been the source of much turmoil between children of our family and their parents. Everyone knew Mom was a hard worker. She always put her best foot forward and did extra to ensure what was needed to be done, got done. Those traits of independence, stubbornness, and the tendency toward working hard, those are what I call Larkin traits. Kevin and Paul, I know my mother looked up to you both so much. She loved her big brothers. You both have been a shining light and a positive example to this family, and especially to myself, to Wesley, and to Chandler. I am so grateful. I am so grateful. You all are who you are. I am so very proud to call you my uncles, and she was proud to call you her brothers. Because of this Larkin independence, I think probably by the time I was 12, I was ready to undo the shackles of maternal oversight. When I turned 18, I joined the Army, eventually doing a tour in Iraq. After I left the military, I traveled overseas for about a year and then came home to Mom, which at the time was Jackson, Tennessee. After her divorce, I was 24 years old. There in Jackson, I lived with my mom for a few months while looking for a job to go back overseas. We had some good times in Jackson. I'd hang out at the bar where she worked, but this time as an adult who could drink. Nobody called me Toby Bon Jovi, and I didn't run around with a gray boombox. Living with her was rough because she wanted to treat me like she treated me when I was a kid. I'd tell her, "Don't you see, Mom? I'm a man now. I've done this, I've done that." But since she passed, I've been longing for the days when I was just her little boy. When she used to put me on her lap with my hands on the steering wheel while she was driving the country roads of Oblong, or when I would sit on her bed just to be next to her and watch Dukes of Hazzard while she got ready for work, or listen to her sing Janis Joplin to me in the car, or even have her tell me to clean my room, or to dance with her like I did when I was a kid. It is a sad state between mothers and their sons. We are in such a hurry to become men, and in the process we forget just who it was that made us into men. Mom always told me that I can do whatever it is I set my mind to. A thing which I think led to a lot of great things in my life. I know she was proud of me and my careers and my educational accomplishments, my military service, and my music. But she was a great influence to me, and all things I do started with her. Mom had some really great qualities. Mom never ever knew a stranger. She was interested in and befriended everyone. Mom really had some wonderful friends. I can't name them all because I don't know them all. My Aunt Marcia, who I've known since I was a small child. Thank you, Marcia, for all you did for my mother in the last few years. Annetta, Jody, Cindy, Sheila, Sandy, and Prudy. She loves you all so much. Mom was just absolutely beautiful. A lot of these pictures I've never seen, but she got a lot of haircuts. I know this. And I've seen some pictures there, and I'm just like, I didn't know my mother was that beautiful. Like, she was just absolutely gorgeous. When Mom came to visit me over the last few years, she'd always want to tip the waiter or bartender a lot. I'd always stop her if I could. She'd tell me that she knows how hard these people work, which is why she wanted to do it. I'd tell her to save her money, but I'm sure she probably found a way to tip them anyways. The night I learned of her death, I walked to the local bar where I live in Texas and drowned my sorrow in booze. I ended up tipping the bartender a lot in honor of my mother, which gave me the idea that I should put that in lieu of sending flowers, you can tip your bartender. Many people have reached out to me with their tipping stories, and I think it is great. As Lon and I were coming into Illinois, we hit some rainstorms and couldn't find a hotel, so we slept in her rental car. The next morning, we drove around and found a really great breakfast place a few miles off the interstate called 9th Street Cafe in Highland, Illinois. The food was delicious, so I tipped the waitress a lot and wrote a little note that the tip was in honor of my mother, and we were on our way to her funeral. Yesterday, my wife was looking at Mom's obituary on the Markwell site. She was stunned to find that the 9th Street Cafe and the people there found the obituary, sent flowers, and planted a tree in Mom's honor. This was the thing my mom would have loved so much because it checked 2 boxes. To well those who serve you and make friends out of total strangers. Thank you. I'd now like to invite anyone else up to the podium who would like to speak or share a story about my mother. After that, we're gonna, I'll come up and play the songs, and we'll go to the graveyard. But at 4 o'clock, we're gonna meet up at the VFW here in town. So if anyone would like to come up and say anything on behalf of my mother, you're welcome.
All right. I'm gonna try, guys. Toby and I talked about this, so I apologize in advance because I'm not very good at this. I hated book reports. If anybody was at John Markwell's, they know how much I was blubbering. Everybody says, oh, you did a good job, I know better. But yes, first of all, thank you for everybody, that's been here. I mean, Tammy would be so happy and proud that everybody that's attending here, it would mean the world to her. Family, friends, I mean, I look out and there's so many people that mean the world to her that's here today. And there's people that is not here that I know they're in my heart. Just a little story about Tamera and I, how we really became such good friends. She was a year behind me in high school, so Tamera and I really didn't hook up until about we were 19. And we decided we wanted to live together. We had worked at the Red Shed, we had worked with Merle Milam. So we attended, we had slumber parties that I attended once in a while, but I really wasn't in their class. And she ran around with a lot of people in my class. Well, we decided we were gonna live together, and we rented a double wide trailer from Fred Haygood and Casey. And boy, did we have some times. Now, I have kind of cleared this story with Roger Goebel, because this was one of the adventures that we had. Bob Simpson, of course, he had the bottle house, and that was where Tammy and I frequented a lot. And that was okay, everybody did. I mean, it was just like our old stomping ground. Well, we were in there, and I'm sure you all remember Mark McClellan, Alan Baker. Well, they were playing pool, and Roger Goebel and Walter Hartman was in there. Well, a brawl started. And Roger said it would be okay with him if I shared the story, but he wasn't sure whether Walter would like me to, because he was on the ground while Roger was getting his ass beat. And they both were pretty bloody by the end of the night. Well, Tam and I said, come back to our place and we will bandage you up. And that's exactly what did. Roger has never forgotten that, and Tammy and I talk about it frequently. Well, after that, we decided we always had a little gypsy in our bodies, I think, both of us. We wanted to hit the road. We loved Casey, but we were ready to get out of here. So we loaded my little black Volkswagen Beetle up that I had got from Don Logue, or Russell Logue, sorry, and we had it to the brim. Well, we hadn't even got out of Indiana before we had car trouble. So here we are. We were pretty young and hot at that time. We thought we were anyway. So we pulled in this little garage. We had a heater hose or something. And we pulled in this garage, and so we smoothed them a little bit. And $5 later, we were on our way to Florida. So we had rented a little duplex from Charlie Savage. And it was little. And we had friends come down, Terry Ramsey, Candy England, and Renee Seaton. Renee Tiffin at the time. 5 of us girls in this little cottage that we had rented from Charlie Savage. And it was little. And don't you know, there was Harry's Bar right next to Charlie's condo. It was a duplex. We got to know Harry pretty well, as Toby says, and both of us, we've never met a stranger in my life. My mom always said that about me too. My cousin does, everybody. And it is so true. Because you would go in as a stranger, when you left, you were a friend. And that was true up until the end with Tam and I. And so we partied the first week we were there, just explored Florida a little bit, and we decided we was gonna stay. So we decided we better go looking for a job. And we did. The first day we went out, I got a job at Guido's Pizza, and she got a job at the Ramada Inn. And then history was being made. Finally, we had to get out of that duplex. We rented an apartment complex. One day, Tammy comes home with 2 dogs. They were brothers. Bonzi and Doc was the name. Well, those dogs tore that apartment up. Tam and I was working, we left them there by themselves, of course. We were young and naive. They ate the corners of the end tables, they ate the crotches out of our bathing suits. Not once, but twice. And we put them up on the shower, and they still got to them and ate our crotches.
Embarrassed me.
Tammy couldn't, we were so, anyway. So as time went on, then we got a house, one thing led to another, we were working, you know, all the time. So then Tammy came back to Illinois, or Oblong, I believe it was, Flora, I don't know. She had a guy there that she thought maybe she was gonna marry, which Toby didn't know about. So I found out, and she didn't end up marrying, but I ended up staying for a couple more years. So in between her leaving and me moving back to Illinois under circumstances, we still got together. When I lived in Philadelphia, when I lived in Rantoul, we visited all the time. Her and Toby would come down to my mom and dad's over Christmas. You know, they always came home to see Frida. And we'd always get together. And I remember Toby sitting at mom and dad's thing. Tam and I was all around. And Toby loved potato chips, and he liked to cover them with black pepper. They would be covered with black pepper. And they visited us several times. Well then, between our marriages and distance, you know, I hadn't seen Tammy for a while, but she seemed to always come down and visit. So, I mean, my memory's not as good as Tammy's, I have to say. She always kept me informed on what was going on in the world, to be quite honest. She loved the news, and I said, you gotta stop watching the news. And she said, and then Tammy was a smart gal, let me tell you. She knew a lot more than I did, that's for darn sure. So, long story short, Tammy was living in Jackson, Tennessee, and she wasn't really happy there anymore. So, Cindy Hickox, her sister Patty, was suffering from Alzheimer's, and Cindy was still working, and she was working long hours, and she needed help. And I talked to Cindy, and then I called Tammy, and I said, how would you feel about coming to Florida and helping your classmate, because Patty and her were classmates. And finally that happened, and that was the best thing that ever happened. And a year later, Patty had to go to the nursing home, and then Tammy came over to Clearwater, where I was at. And we were sidekicks. Anywhere I was, Tammy was. And she lived by me on top of the world the whole time. And she started being a caretaker. She took care of people in top of the world, and she took really good care of them. Everybody loved Tammy that met her. As Toby and I both said, she's never met a stranger. And the last place she was living was always at top of the world since she came back after moving away from Lakeland when she was taking care of Patty. And her and I, we loved going out to nice restaurants. We loved thrifting. We were the thrift queens of Florida. I'm telling you, if you see the clothes that we both had,
I can attest to that.
handbags, shoes, clothes, it was jewelry. But Tam and I had a great time. You know, the last few years of Tam's life, she was suffering a little bit. Most of you probably know she had an aortic valve replacement, and after that she kind of started going downhill a little bit, and she had a heart attack, had 2 stents put in. She had some blood clots, and you know, I tried to take care of her the best I could, to her doctor's appointments and all that, but most of anything, Tam was one of my very best friends ever. We had our ups and downs and in-betweens, but at the end, we always kissed and made up. She would come knock on my door on my window. She'd say, Moss, you home? She always called me that, Moss, you home? It's like, come on in. And you know, we had sat and talked about things. I'd call her, I said, what are you doing? Watching Bobby Flay, watching Chop. We liked the reality shows at the end because it kind of escaped from all the things that was happening in the world. When COVID hit, I happened to get COVID, and Tammy was one of my best friends then. She would get food for me, drop it outside. You know, she was always saying, can I get you anything? Can I get you some soup? Whatever. Tam, as much as everybody thinks I was her friend, she was my friend. I mean, I was her, she was my friend also. She helped me in everything, and it's gonna be really hard on me going back to Florida without Tammy being there. Because regardless of what was going on, her and I was sidekicks, and she always said, Thelma and Louise. We were like Thelma and Louise, and I loved her dearly. And you know, I'm so happy to see Bob and Linda here, because Bob Simpson was one of Tammy's very dear friends, and him and her and I at the Bottle House Tammy adored that man. Not in a bad way, just in a friendship way, Linda. Now, Bob might have had other ideas, I don't know. But, I mean, Tammy loved, and she loved hard. It was hard for Tammy to show her emotions. She held everything inside, you know, and I would ask her, Tam, what's on your mind? Nothing, I'm okay. But she wasn't. She just held everything inside, and she didn't know how to, she loved a lot, but she didn't know how to accept love sometimes either, you know, but, yeah. Annetta and her and I, we had the best times at the beaches, at JD's, you know, she loved Annetta as much as she loved me. And it was a little Casey, little reunion all the time, we'd get together, you know. And I have no regrets looking after my friend. And Annetta was there too, her and Doug helped Tammy a lot, and,
She helped us when I broke my shoulder.
she
was
sure
right
did.
there to
Yes, Tammy was a good friend too, yeah.
everything on me. It's almost embarrassing to say what all she had to do. But, did it like a trooper.
Yeah, and at the end, like where she was living, it was still at top of the world, but it was a little ways down for me. And those people, when they found out Tammy had passed away, was absolutely devastated, because she had made an impact on their life also. The little lady that lived next door, she asked me what was going on, and I told her Tammy passed, and she cried and hugged me. And she said Tammy was such a love, and she said she prayed for her every day, because she knew Tammy was struggling a little bit. And she said she would come in my house, and she was looking, the woman had her mother living with her, and said Tammy would sit on her mom's bed, and she would talk to her and hold her hand, and she said, is there anything I can do for you folks? Is there anything for your mom, for you? Can I stay with your mom while you go do something? She had that effect on everybody in that little area. Everybody was devastated when they found out about Tammy. She was that well loved. And, that's about it. Sorry, I didn't write down, I wasn't as professional as Toby. I tried last night, but how do you sit and write after 50-some years of friendship, all the stories? It's hard. But anyway, Ron and Prue, we had some good times together. We all met them when they were going on a cruise, and Tammy loved going to Ron and Prudy's. And the last time that she was here, Jody Howe, I don't know, Kathy, you were with them, and I don't know who all was together, but she came back and she talked about that. One of the best visits she had had in Casey ever. She told me that. She talked, and Tammy didn't say a lot about her visits, but that was one she talked and talked about it. You guys were good friends to her too. And she loved Jody Bruner. She loved spending time with you when she was home. Cindy was always a good friend with her. She always was accepting, and I hate to say goodbye, but it was just for a temporary, because we'll meet up again someday. So thank you guys.
Well, I'm not gonna say goodbye, because we can go.
We're not saying goodbye.
I'm not saying goodbye, because I'm gonna continue talking to her.
Every day.
Every day when something happens, it's gonna be, okay, Netta, this is your
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 friend
thing,
Tammy.
yeah. Tammy and I met, I'm not gonna make mine quite as long, sorry. We met I moved to Casey in junior high, and we probably became good friends my sophomore year. Now, and we have remained friends all this time, but, I came down with my daughter. We're staying at the 1890. I have to say, Tappy and I were kind of on it. And we just, snuck in there a lot. So I'm coming down the stairs at the 1890 inside, and they creak, There's no way. You cannot have no noise going up and down those stairs. And this morning I was going up and down the stairs, and I just started laughing, and I thought, well, this reminds me of the times that I would spend at Tammy's house, and we were trying to sneak in. But, Paul always knew we were coming in. My other stories are gonna be at the V, because I know that's where they'll come out. But I know the family appreciates everybody coming today.
Yeah.
Tammy was a good friend, and
Good soul.
yeah, she was, can't say enough,
She
and
was
I'm gonna miss
honoring.
her too.
Yeah, overall. I'm sure you girls have some stories you might want to
Oh,
share.
yeah.
You brave.
I'm done.
See you at the meeting.
else like to get up and speak? Not putting you on the spot at all, but if you would, anyone.
Sure. Good, Gary. I feel like the Goldstein back.
I didn't prepare anything. I have no clue what I'm gonna say, but I think Aunt Pam would've liked that anyway. She would've said, I'll go for it, girl. I don't ever, you guys said, where did you meet Tammy? To me, I don't remember a life without Aunt Tammy. I know there was a time before, but it was a time before I had any memory. But I know that people say you don't remember what people say or what they do, but you remember how they make you feel. And I'm not gonna cry, it's not bad.
That's what I say.
Yeah. I remember how Aunt Tammy made me feel. Anytime she was around, you just felt loved and protected. You felt accepted. There's a lot of times in the family, I kind of felt like the black sheep. But I always had old Aunt Tammy. That even though I made straight C's, a 2.5 GPA somewhere in there, I was never good at sports. Never good. I didn't have my own thing, but I loved music. I was an old soul. And Aunt Tam always said, girl, I don't know how you're gonna do it, but with that mouth, you're gonna make something of yourself. Drives your mom crazy, but with that mouth, you're gonna make it. I can see it. And sure enough, I joined the military and made a life out of screaming and yelling at people. So Aunt Tam was right. And some of my best memories growing up are me and Crystal closing our eyes over that bridge to make it to Aunt Tam's. Crystal would close her eyes. She was 16, I was 15. We would go to Aunt Tam's and where was she living at the time? Henderson or something like that. And Crystal would close her eyes over the bridge and I would steer. And I'm sure that our parents didn't know about it, but Crystal could not stand going over that bridge. So I couldn't drive because I didn't have a license, but Crystal had her feet on the pedals. And
Is that the river bridge you're talking about?
Oh yeah, it was a huge bridge. Yeah, they were dangerous. Sorry about that, Dad. I know about that now. But we would go, and Toby, I know that he was home, but he was probably hiding out as much as he could because I don't really remember you being there much because that was Aunt Tammy's time to shine because we did girl stuff the whole time. We went to thrift stores. We would come home with just suitcases of stuff that Lord knows we didn't need, but we got it because Aunt Tam said, oh, you need this. It's only 25 cents or whatever. So we would come home with suitcases full of stuff and our hair in curlers and learning how to, her best meal that she made me that I talked to Mom about all the time was, I'm sure Crystal remembers too, it was like chicken fettuccine Alfredo with broccoli, and it was the best stuff, and she knew how to make it the best with her own little touch because of all those years at the Olive Garden. And I remember, I think I came home from basic training. When was that? Somewhere around 02, I don't know. And I found out things weren't going great with her and my uncle, and she gave me the news, and not to get into that really, but I remember getting on the phone and telling her, Aunt Tammy, you'll always be my aunt. Doesn't matter what happens, you'll always be my aunt. You'll always be my family. And a few years later, when life turned itself around on me, and I was going through a very similar hard time, she called me up and she said, don't you ever forget, Carrie, I'm always your aunt. I'm always there for you. And we can do this. You're tough, girl. You're independent. And you're strong. And if you ever need to wonder if you can do it, just take a good look at me. I'm doing just fine. And with a little bit of Aunt Tam's strength and my mouth she always told me that I had, I made it. So every time I make another strong, independent move as a woman that I think that I can't do on my own, I'll have Aunt Tammy to thank for that. So, anyway, here's to Aunt Tam. I love you. Thanks for all the memories.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? If not, we're probably gonna take just a 2-minute break so I can, I'm gonna go and take my coat off and I'm gonna play a couple songs for you. Just 2 minutes. this song to my mother in the car. I thought it was just pretty appropriate. There are places I remember, some are gone and some remain. All these places have their moments. I'm so sorry, I definitely do need the lyrics. Okay. There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends. I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I love them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. All these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. And I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. But in my life, I loved you more. But I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. But in my life, I loved you more. In my life, I love you more. This next song is by Blaze Foley. I know my mother didn't know this song, but I've been playing it a lot in the truck around the time she died. And I thought it was pretty fitting. I watched the sun come out today. The wind swept all the clouds away. The sky did turn from gray to blue. My thoughts did turn to you. with empty arms that long for you. I'll only hear the lonesome sound since you left our little town. Since you left our little town. So, music was a big deal between my mother and I. She gave me her love for music. And after a couple days after she passed, I started noodling on my guitar, and I started crying. And I came up with a chorus for this song I'm gonna sing now. I wrote it for her, and over the next couple of days, I talked to Marcia and Paul, and then I talked to Kevin, and just heard some things that really it put the verses together, and it's really about her and Casey, and it means a lot to me. You were born in your mother's house, just up the road a ways. You left this town years ago. Now you're coming home to stay. When your brothers left for Vietnam, things just never were the same. So you hit the road at your first chance. Back here you rarely came. Mama, don't you leave us now. I don't know how to say goodbye. To sing a sweet song and think of you and cry till I'm through. You never met a stranger on the road, just a friend by another name. Not all repay the love you showed, but you paid it just the same. Mama, don't you leave us now. I don't know how to say goodbye. To sing a sweet song and think of you and try to push on through. The road was hard, but you were tough. That's what got you through the years. Now we gotta take your strength and love and wipe away our tears. Mama, don't you leave us now. I don't know how to say goodbye. To sing a sweet song and think of you
mother's house, just up the road ways. You left this town years ago. Now you're coming home to stay. Mama, don't you leave us now. I don't know how to say goodbye. Sing a sweet song and think of you and try to push on through. Mama, don't you leave us now. I don't know how to say goodbye, but to sing a sweet song and think of you and cry till I'm through, till I'm through, till I'm through. Till I'm through.